I just got back from a week over in London attending and presenting at the ICSPP, where I was fortunate enough to spend some time with a number of Bridge users. And in some of our discussions, there was one specific unit that said how they outgrew their facility, and that was limiting them in what they could do, what they could track in Bridge. And so we dove into that a little bit more. And what the case is they have more people wanting to work out with them at any given time during their group training sessions, that their facility can't support everyone doing the exercise or the same exercise that was initially programmed in all at the same time. So they're allowing those individuals to select a similar exercise, so something in that specific pattern, let's say squat pattern, for example, goblet squat, kettlebell squat, front squat, back squat. They're letting them choose any one of those and execute because it gets the intended purpose of the squat pattern and works with the limitations associated with their current facility based on how many people are coming in. But they said it was limiting because they couldn't track what they wanted to track in Bridge. Otherwise, it was too cumbersome. It was too much of a slowdown. And we dove into that a little bit more, which is when they explained the story to me. And it was great because we had a solution. And it's actually a solution that was shared to me by one of our larger private sector users who creates template programs. So the structure is already done for everybody. And then what they do is within that structure, instead of programming like exercises, they create an exercise that is a pattern, kind of a placeholder. So squat pattern, horizontal pull, for example. And then they give alternative exercises that fit that pattern that then the coach can go use for the program or the end user can go and use for that program. And then everything is still tracked and in that case structured the exact same. So I proposed that idea to this unit and they were totally interested, which led to this video. It was like, let's just share it with everybody because it may not be commonly known. So let's dive into that a little bit here via this exercise category template program. Very simple program, nothing fancy, just designed to show you the capabilities and concept of what I'm talking about. So here I created two blocks, a lower push, upper pull, and an upper push, lower pull. Standard practice, nothing fancy. And what I did here is I put in a comment at the block level. Pick your appropriate exercise for each pattern. Not necessary. You can use it. There's a lot of ways to communicate your intent to the end user in Bridge, and I'll show you a few of them in this regard because communication, from my perspective, is key. And I did that again in the squat pattern here. Pick your appropriate exercise. Do you need it in both? Probably not. Again, just showing you where you can put it in. On that same note, you can have a note specific to every exercise that you select as an alternative to that initial pattern. So in this case, for the squat pattern, where we already have the set rep and intensity via percent difficulty planned out, we have these exercises associated with it. So these will be ones that the coach and or end user can select when in the moment. Goblet squat, front squat, kettlebell squat, back squat. Now right now, because I have this box checked, that exact same prescription will populate for each one of these exercises relative to their own individual working max, again, for each exercise. Now, another thing you can see here is I have regression, alternative. So this is the intended exercise. These are regressions or alternatives that you could put here. Now, regressions, progressions, totally depends on your intent and how you communicate those with your people. I will say from experience and others sharing that using the word regression might not be the best option to have people in the tactical sector anyway select that exercise. So you can just have them all as alternative. The functionality is no different. It's just kind of annotated on the back end as what they see for the intent. So in some cases, this level of communication may just be saved for alternative because the intent won't be delivered or received as intended. But nonetheless, those are the options there: alternatives, progression, regression. Okay. Now, closing that out, the same thing goes for the horizontal pull. Dive into that. Got a tracked set there. This same set rep scheme will be populated to each one of these exercises depending on which one is selected. And I'll show you what that looks like via or in the phone here shortly. Now, when I go to the next block, and I did this on purpose to show you, so this is a set rep scheme specific to this pattern that will populate for any one of those exercises selected. However, in some cases, the exact same set rep scheme doesn't really apply to specific exercises across the board. For example, some body weight ones. So if we go into this hinge pattern exercise, we can see currently I do not have any set rep scheme programmed out. I don't need it because everyone's going to be their own unique. So here, in my perspective for this video, the lowest or the furthest down the regression continuum would be the eccentric only slider leg curl. So we're going to have the most reps there. Again, trying to get a similar training effect across the board, depending on ability. Then we have the standard slider leg curl, so executing both the eccentric and concentric here. Then we have a progression to that initially intended exercise where you can do a single leg slider leg curl, and those reps have been reduced from 8 on the bilateral or double leg to the unilateral or single leg. And then the furthest up the continuum would be this partner resisted leg curl, also known as a Nordic leg curl or a poor man glute ham. But this is where the person executing the exercise controls the eccentric of the way down and then has to pull themselves back up. So definitely in relation to all of these exercises, the most difficult, which is why those reps are lower. And so depending on which exercise the individual selects, those not only will that exercise populate, but their specific set rep scheme will populate. Now let me go ahead and close out of this and pause briefly to switch over to the phone app. Okay, now that I have the phone up, you can see I've already performed the performance log on this demo account for the day. So that won't populate like it normally would when I go to start the workout. So I'm going to go ahead and start this one here. Select Monday. I don't need to preview it because we already know what it is. We went over that. I'm going to start it. And now what populates is exactly what we saw there. The initial squat pattern mentioned, the set rep scheme that's already been programmed out, and that purple box right below that last set suggesting you have 4 alternative prescriptions. Tap to explore. So if I go in there, I can see we have the goblet squat, the front squat, the kettlebell squat, and the back squat. Let's just go ahead and right there hit back squat. Are you sure you would like to switch? Absolutely. Now you see back squat is populated with the set rep scheme as programmed and the individual intensities specific to that person. So it populated those specific weights for us. All right, so the same thing would happen for the horizontal pull. I'm going to swipe over and go to the next block to show you the hinge pattern where we don't currently have any set rep scheme programmed in because each one's going to be a little different. The process is the exact same. So I'll select that purple box again. And now you can see we've got leg curl, 12 reps, 8 reps, everything we discussed. Let's go ahead and select the most difficult one here, partner resisted leg curl, or again, also known as a Nordic leg curl. Yes, we want that one. Now that's been switched out. So you can see how this really could benefit that one unit, for example, who needs to program in the pattern and give them options on which exercises to execute because of the lack of facility space based on its popularity. And you can also see how if you're a large organization, like in the private setting, like I mentioned, who creates these templates, how this can serve as kind of a force multiplier or a scalable approach to the same programming provided by all coaches that work within that company. All right, so exercise alternatives, regressions, and progressions.